A poor 8-year-old girl begs an unkind millionaire for leftovers. He had no idea she was his lost daughter, and what she says breaks his heart. Before we get into it, if this video found you at the right moment, let me know with your favorite emoji. The summer heat shimmered off the pavement outside Bellamy's, Boston's most exclusive restaurant. 8-year-old Emma Tucker pressed her small face against the cool glass of the window, watching the wealthy diners inside. Her golden hair, once bright and sunny, now hung in matted tangles around her thin shoulders. Her once white dress was now a dusty gray from weeks without a proper washing. The shoes on her tiny feet were held together at the soles with duct tape. "Come on, Emma," Martha whispered, tugging gently at the child's arm. "We shouldn't be here." Martha had been Emma's foster mother for just 6 months. At 62, with arthritis twisting her fingers and medical bills piling up, she'd taken in the girl when nobody else would. The eviction notice from last week still burned like a hot coal in Martha's pocket. "But they throw away so much food," Emma insisted, her blue eyes wide with a wisdom far beyond her years. "And we haven't eaten since yesterday morning." Inside, William Blackwood sat alone at his regular table, barely touching his $200 steak. At 42, he had built Blackwood Enterprises into a multi-billion-dollar corporation through sheer cutthroat determination. His coldness was legendary in business circles, a chilling reputation he had carefully cultivated. His emptiness was evident in the weary set of his shoulders. "Mr. Blackwood, would you like the rest wrapped up?" the waiter asked, his tone professionally detached. William glanced at his barely touched meal. "No, just the check." That's when he noticed them, the old woman and the little girl watching from outside. Something about the child's intense gaze caught him off guard. He quickly looked away, signaling for the waiter again. "Sir, those people outside. I'll have security remove them," the waiter assured him, eager to please. William hesitated, his eyes drawn back to the girl. For a fleeting, inexplicable moment, something stirred within him. Something he had buried long ago under layers of ambition and ice. Before he could decide what to do, the restaurant's manager was already heading toward the door, with a stern look on his face. Emma saw the manager approaching and tugged Martha's sleeve. "We have to go." But as they turned to leave, Emma stumbled. Her worn-out shoe finally gave out, sending her sprawling onto the hard sidewalk just as William exited the restaurant. "Are you all right?" he asked mechanically, his voice devoid of warmth, speaking more from social obligation than genuine concern. Emma looked up, and in that instant William froze. Those eyes, the exact shade of cornflower blue that had haunted his dreams for 9 long years. "I'm fine, sir," Emma replied softly. "I'm sorry for bothering you." William couldn't explain the strange, powerful pull he felt toward this child. Against his better judgment, he asked, "Were you looking for something?" Martha stepped forward, protectively, her body a frail shield for the small girl. "We should go, Emma. Were you hungry?" William pressed, his gaze taking in the girl's alarmingly thin frame. Emma straightened her small shoulders with a surprising and profound dignity. "We were just wondering if there might be any leftover food. I promise to pay you back when I grow up." Something cracked inside William's chest, a hairline fracture in the fortress of ice he'd built around his heart. "Why don't you both come inside?" He heard himself saying the words, foreign on his own tongue. Martha shook her head, her pride a fragile thing. "We couldn't possibly." "I insist," William said, his voice softer than it had been in years. As he led them inside, William couldn't shake the disorienting feeling that he knew this child somehow. The way she tilted her head, the determined set of her jaw, it was like looking at a ghost from his past. What William Blackwood didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that 9 years ago his life had taken a turn in the dark. When Catherine James had tried to tell him she was pregnant, his fiercely loyal assistant had intercepted the calls. She was determined to protect him from what she saw as a gold Digger's Trap. Catherine, heartbroken and alone, died in childbirth. Her baby, a little girl with fiery hair and cornflower blue eyes, disappeared into the unforgiving foster system. And William never knew he had a daughter. Until now. William's penthouse overlooked Boston Harbor, 40 stories above the city streets. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a $1 million view, but he rarely noticed it anymore. Tonight, however, he stood at the glass watching the harbor lights flicker like distant, lonely stars. "What were you thinking, William?" His assistant, Victoria Harlow's voice cut through his thoughts like a shard of glass. At 45, she'd been with him for 15 years, managing every aspect of his life with ruthless, terrifying efficiency. They were hungry. "Victoria," he replied, his gaze still fixed on the night. "You could have given them money and sent them on their way. Instead, you brought them to your regular restaurant, had the chef prepare them special meals, and then gave them your card." Victoria's voice rose with each word, laced with disbelief. "Do you have any idea what the board would say if they knew you were entertaining homeless people?" William turned, his expression hardening. "The board doesn't dictate who I have dinner with." Victoria placed a folder on his desk with a sharp snap. "The quarterly reports need your signature, and you have the Henderson meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. As she turned to leave, William asked, "Victoria, do you remember Catherine James?" Victoria's step faltered, an almost imperceptible hesitation. "The artist from the charity auction years ago." "Yes. Did she ever try to contact me after we broke things off?" Victoria's face remained a professionally blank mask. "Not that I recall." "Why do you ask?" "No reason," William replied. But as Victoria left, he pulled out his phone and searched for Catherine James, artist, Boston. The search returned an obituary from 7 years ago. Catherine James, a promising young artist, had died from complications following childbirth. There was no mention of the child's fate. William stared at Catherine's photo, a ghost from a life he had run from. They'd spent 6 passionate months together before his ambition had ruthlessly driven him away. She had been everything he wasn't. Warm, creative, full of life. He'd ended things when he realized he was falling in love, terrified of anything that might distract him from his empire building. His phone rang, interrupting his tormented thoughts. "Mr. Blackwood, this is Martha Tucker from earlier today." William straightened. "Yes, Mrs. Tucker. Is everything all right? Emma wanted me to call and thank you again for dinner. She's never eaten in a restaurant before." Something tightened in William's chest. "How long have you been Emma's guardian?" 6 months. Her last foster home didn't work out." "Foster home?" William's pulse quickened. "Emma's been in the system since birth. Her mother died during delivery." "Poor thing." William's grip tightened on the phone until his knuckles were white. "Mrs. Tucker, would you and Emma join me for dinner again tomorrow?" Hanging up, William returned to the window, his mind racing. The timing of Catherine's death, Emma's age, those hauntingly familiar blue eyes. It couldn't be a coincidence. In his desk drawer was a small velvet box he hadn't opened in years. Inside lay a silver locket containing a lock of Catherine's hair, fiery red like autumn leaves. He'd kept it, a secret token from a life he'd tried to forget. If his suspicions were correct, he'd made the greatest, most devastating mistake of his life 9 years ago. And that little girl, eating restaurant leftovers, might be his daughter. At her small, threadbare apartment, Emma clutched Martha's worn Bible as they said their nightly prayers. "And thank you for Mr. Blackwood and the food," Emma whispered. "Please help me find a way to pay him back someday." Martha smoothed Emma's hair, her heart aching for the child. "Sweetheart, people like Mr. Blackwood don't need our money. It's not about money," Emma replied with 8-year-old wisdom. "It's about keeping promises." As Emma drifted to sleep, Martha noticed something she hadn't before. A small birthmark behind the child's ear, shaped like a perfect crescent moon. Catherine James had loved autumn in Boston. William remembered how she'd drag him to the public garden to watch the leaves change color. She would insist they take the swan boats no matter how cold it got. Life is too short for practicality, William. She'd laugh, her red hair flying in the October wind. Standing in that same garden 9 years later, William watched as Emma fed the ducks, with Martha sitting nearby on a bench. This was their 4th meeting in 2 weeks. Each one left William more convinced of the truth he now suspected. "Mr. Blackwood," Emma called, running over with breadcrumbs still on her hand. "The ducks told me a secret." William knelt to her level, a strange warmth spreading through him. "What did they say?" "They said you look sad behind your eyes, like Martha, when she thinks I'm not looking." William's breath caught in his throat. Catherine had once told him the exact same thing. "Emma, would you mind if I ask you something about your mother?" Emma's bright smile faded slightly. "I don't know anything about her, just that her name was Catherine, and she died when I was born." "Catherine?" William repeated softly, the name a prayer on his lips. "Do you have anything of hers?" Emma shook her head sadly. "The fire at my first foster home burned everything." Martha joined them, moving slowly with her cane. "Emma, why don't you feed the last of the bread to the ducks?" When Emma was out of earshot, Martha said, "She's quite taken with you, Mr. Blackwood. I haven't seen her this happy since I've known her." "Mrs. Tucker, I need to ask you something important. Does Emma have a birthmark?" "Behind her right ear, shaped like a crescent moon." Martha's eyes widened in astonishment. "How could you possibly know that?" William's heart thundered in his chest. Drumbeat of hope and fear, because Catherine had the same birthmark. "And so does my mother." "What exactly are you saying, Mr. Blackwood?" "I believe Emma is my daughter." Martha's expression hardened, her protective instincts flaring. "Do you have any idea what that child has been through? 7 foster homes in 8 years, nights without food, a lifetime of never belonging anywhere." "Didn't know," William whispered, the words tasting like ash. "I never knew Catherine was pregnant. And now that you suspect, what do you intend to do? Upend her life again? Take her away from the little stability she's finally found?" Before William could answer, Emma returned, beaming. "The ducks ate everything that night." William couldn't sleep. He paced his silent penthouse until dawn, then called his lawyer at 600 a.m. "I need everything you can find on Emma Tucker. Birth certificate, adoption, records, everything." "May I ask why?" his lawyer inquired, cautiously. "Because I believe she's my daughter." Later that afternoon, his lawyer called back, his voice grave. "William, I found something strange. Emma's original birth certificate lists the mother as Catherine James, but the father is unknown. However, there's a sealed record with the family court. Someone went to great lengths to hide something about this child's parentage. Who would do that and why? I don't know, but whoever it was had considerable influence. These kinds of records don't get sealed without serious pull." That evening, William received a text from Martha. "Emma's in the hospital. Children's Medical Center, room 412. William broke every traffic law getting there. He found Martha in the hallway, outside Emma's room, her eyes red from crying. "What happened?" "Pneumonia." Her fever spiked suddenly. Martha looked up at him, her face etched with worry. "She's been asking for you." William entered the room cautiously. Emma looked impossibly tiny in the large hospital bed, her face flushed with fever. "Mr. Blackwood," she whispered, her voice weak. "You came?" "Of course I did," he said, his own voice thick with emotion. He sat beside her, taking her small, warm hand in his. "Am I going to die like my mother?" "No," William said firmly, a fierce promise in his tone. "I promise you won't." Emma's eyes fluttered, closed. "If I do, I'm sorry I never paid you back for the food." As Emma slept, a doctor entered with her chart. "Are you family?" Hita asked William. Before he could answer, William noticed the doctor's name badge, Dr. James Peterson. "Were you by any chance working here 9 years ago?" William asked suddenly. The doctor studied him carefully. "I was." "Did you know Catherine James?" Dr. Peterson's professional expression changed instantly. Who's asking? My name is William Blackwood. I believe Emma is my daughter. The doctor's face paled. Mr. Blackwood, we should talk, but not here. As Dr. Peterson led him to his office, William's phone buzzed with a text from his lawyer. Found something. The person who had Emma's record sealed was Victoria Harlow. Victoria Harlow had been 28 when she first met William Blackwood at a business seminar in Chicago. She'd recognized his potential immediately, his ruthless intelligence, his singular drive, his complete focus on success. Within a year, she'd become his executive assistant. And within 5, she was indispensable. What William never suspected was that Victoria had mapped out her own future alongside his. Eventually, she believed she would transition from assistant to wife, from employee to partner, until Catherine James appeared and threatened everything. Now, 15 years later, Victoria sat in her immaculate apartment, reviewing the day's correspondence. Her phone rang. It was a private investigator she kept on retainer. Ms. Harlow, someone's been looking into the James case. Court records were accessed today. Victoria's hand tightened around her wineglass. By whom? Lawrence Davis, William Blackwood's attorney. The glass shattered in her grip, red wine spilling like blood across her white carpet. At Children's Medical Center, Dr. Peterson closed his office door. I was Catherine's doctor during her pregnancy, he explained. She came to me desperate after trying to reach you repeatedly. William's jaw tightened into a knot of steel. I never received any messages from her. She said someone was blocking her. Your assistant. By the time Catherine realized what was happening, she was already 7 months pregnant and experiencing complications. What? Complications? Preeclampsia. I urged her to reduce stress, but she was determined to tell you about the baby. Dr. Peterson's eyes held a deep, lingering accusation. The night she went into labor, there was an accident. Her taxi was hit by a drunk driver on the way to the hospital. William felt physically ill, a wave of nausea washing over him. The birth certificate says she died in childbirth. Technically true. She survived the accident long enough to deliver Emma, then hemorrhaged. Her last words were, your name and a request that her daughter be given to you. But I never knew. Emma went into foster care. Instead, Dr. Peterson nodded grimly. Someone falsified documents, claimed the father was unknown. By the time I discovered what had happened, Emma had already been placed in the system. When I tried to locate her, I hit walls everywhere. Someone with considerable influence wanted that child to disappear. William's phone buzzed again. Another message from his lawyer. Victoria has been transferring large sums to various family court officials for years. The pieces clicked into a horrible, sickening place. Victoria had intercepted Catherine's calls, hidden the pregnancy from him, and then ensured Emma disappeared into the system after Catherine's death. I need a DNA test, William said, his voice raw. Immediately. Already ahead of you, Dr. Peterson replied, holding up a sealed envelope. I took the liberty of running one when you arrived. Emma's fever is from a routine childhood infection, but I ordered full blood work as a precaution. William's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. In Emma's hospital room, Martha dozed in a chair while Emma slept. The little girl's eyes fluttered open at the sound of the door. Mr. Blackwood, she murmured. William approached slowly, truly seeing her for the first time. His daughter. His child. The family he'd never known he had. Emma, he said softly, his voice thick with 9 years of unshed tears. There's something I need to tell you. Before he could continue, the hospital room door opened again. Victoria stood there, her usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. William, we need to talk. Now. Martha awoke, instantly alert. Who are you? Victoria ignored her focus entirely on William. Whatever you think you've discovered, you're making a mistake. William stood, positioning himself protectively between Victoria and Emma's bed. The only mistake was trusting you. For 15 years, Victoria's eyes darted to Emma, then back to William, a flicker of panic in their depths. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand. Perfectly, William replied, his voice deadly quiet. You kept my daughter from me. You let me believe Catherine never tried to contact me. You orchestrated all of this. Victoria's composure finally cracked. I protected you. Catherine would have ruined everything we built. We? William's voice rose. There is no we, Victoria. There never was. Mr. Blackwood? Emma's small voice came from behind him. What's happening? William turned to her, his expression softening instantly. Emma, But Victoria wasn't finished. Do you really think you can be a father? You who works 18 hours a day? You who cancels plans at a moment's notice? That child will end up neglected, just like every other relationship in your life. Martha stood, surprisingly formidable despite her frail frame. I think you should leave. Victoria's laugh held a tinge of hysteria. You don't know him. None of you do. William Blackwood doesn't care about people. He cares about power. That's enough, William said, his voice final. You're fired, Victoria. And before you leave this hospital, know that my lawyers will be contacting you about criminal charges. Victoria's face went white. Without another word, she turned and left, her defeat a palpable presence in the room. In the heavy silence that followed, Emma's small voice asked again, Mr. Blackwood, what's happening? Why was that lady so angry? William sat on the edge of Emma's bed, his heart pounding. Emma, I need to tell you something that might sound unbelievable. Emma stared at the ceiling of her hospital room, trying to process everything. William, her father, had told her everything. Outside, she could hear Martha and William talking in hushed, urgent voices. She needs time, Martha was saying. It's a lot for anyone to take in, let alone a child. I've already lost 8 years, William replied, his voice raw with pain. I don't want to lose any more. This isn't about what you want, Martha said firmly. It's about what Emma needs. Emma closed her eyes, remembering all the nights she'd lain awake in different foster homes. She would imagine what her parents might have been like. In her fantasies, her mother had been a princess and her father a brave knight. Sometimes they were astronauts or explorers off on some grand adventure. Never once had she imagined her father as a stern businessman in an expensive suit. Yet a part of her had recognized him that very first day outside the restaurant. Something deep inside had drawn her to him even before she knew the truth. The door opened and William entered, alone, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. May I sit? He asked. Emma nodded, studying his face for familiar features. They had the same eyes, she realized. The same stubborn chin. Do you have questions for me? William asked softly. Emma had hundreds, but only one seemed truly important right now. Did you love my mother? William's guarded expression softened. Yes. More than I was willing to admit, even to myself. Then why did you leave her? William sighed, choosing his words with care. I was afraid. Building my company had always been my only goal. When I met your mother, she made me want different things, and that scared me. What things? A real life family. Love. He looked down at his powerful hands. I've spent 9 years building an empire, Emma, and I've never felt as rich as I did those 6 months with Catherine. Would you have stayed if you knew about me? William met her gaze directly, his own eyes full of regret. In a heartbeat, Emma thought about this for a long moment. What happens now? That depends partly on what you want, William said. Legally, I'm your father, and I want you to come live with me. But I understand this is overwhelming. What about Martha? Emma asked, her voice small. She needs me. William nodded. Martha will always be part of your life. I promise. Emma was silent for a long moment, her mind whirling. Can I think about it? Of course. William stood. I should let you rest. As he reached the door, Emma called out, Mr. Blackwood. You can call me whatever makes you comfortable, he said gently. William, she decided. Thank you for finding me. The next morning, Dr. Peterson discharged Emma with instructions for follow-up care. As they left the hospital, a news van pulled up, a vulture sensing a story. Mr. Blackwood, is it true? You've discovered a long-lost daughter? William instinctively shielded Emma from the flashing cameras. No comment. More. Reporters appeared shouting questions, their voices a chaotic chorus. William swept Emma into his arms and hurried toward his waiting car, Martha following as quickly as her arthritic legs would allow. How did they find out? Martha asked, once they were safely inside. William's expression darkened. Victoria. At Martha's apartment, they found an eviction notice taped to the door. Final warning. Vacate premises within 24 hours. I was going to tell you, Martha said, to Emma, her voice full of shame. I didn't want to worry you while you were sick. You're both staying at my penthouse tonight, William declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. We'll sort this out tomorrow. Emma had never seen anything like William's home, floating 40 floors above the city. It felt like living in a castle in the sky. But despite its grandeur, it struck her as profoundly lonely. There were no photos, no personal touches, nothing that said someone really lived there. I'll have the guest rooms prepared, William said, his voice echoing in the vast space. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She wandered into the living room and found William at the window, staring out at the city lights. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, without turning. It's too quiet, Emma admitted. In foster homes, there were always noises. Other children, adults arguing, the sounds of a household. I have something for you, William said, retrieving a small velvet box from his desk. This was your mother's. Inside was a silver locket. When Emma opened it, she found a small lock of vibrant red hair. My mother's hair, she whispered, her fingers tracing the delicate silver. William nodded. You have her spirit, her kindness, and your eyes, Emma said. That's how you knew, isn't it? My eyes. They were the first clue, William agreed. But I think somehow I recognized you on a deeper level. Emma fingered the locket. If I come to live with you, can Martha come too? She doesn't have anywhere else to go. I've been thinking about that, William said, a small smile touching his lips. My house in Cambridge has been sitting empty for years. It's near the best schools in Boston. There's a garden in it, plenty of room for both of you. Both of us? Emma, I've missed 8 years of your life. I have a lot to learn about being a father. I think we both need Martha for the first time since learning the truth. Emma smiled. Oh, real brilliant smile that reached her eyes. I'd like that, but as they stood together at the window, a newfound family silhouetted against the city, neither noticed. The car parked across the street. Victoria Harlow was watching them. Through binoculars, her face a mask of twisted rage. Enjoy your happy ending while it lasts, she whispered into the darkness. The Cambridge house was everything William had promised. It was a beautiful Victorian with a wraparound porch and a sprawling garden out back. Emma ran from room to room, her excitement a palpable energy. In the old house, there's a window seat. In my bedroom, she called down to Martha, who was exploring the first floor more slowly. William watched from the doorway, a complex mixture of joy and regret on his face. This house had been an investment. Property. He'd never lived here himself. Now, seeing it through Emma's eyes, he wished he had years ago. The kitchen's lovely, Martha said, joining him, and the garden has potential. I've arranged for contractors to make any modifications you need for your arthritis, William told her. Handrails, a walk-in shower, whatever helps. Martha studied him thoughtfully. You're really committed to this. She's my daughter, William replied simply. And you're important to her. What about your work, your life in the city? William smiled ruefully. I'm learning that some things are more important than quarterly reports. The doorbell rang, interrupting their conversation. William's lawyer, Lawrence, stood on the porch holding a thick folder. I've completed the legal work, Lawrence said. Emma's birth certificate has been amended to list you as her father. The adoption petition is ready for filing, and I've drafted the guardianship agreement for Mrs. Tucker. Thank you, Lawrence. Any news on Victoria? Lawrence's expression turned grim. She's gone underground. Emptied her accounts, disconnected her phone. The police are looking for her, but she's vanished. William nodded, unsurprised. Victoria had always been thorough. After Lawrence left, William found Emma in what would be her bedroom. She was arranging her few precious possessions on the dresser, a worn teddy bear, a dog-eared copy of Anne of Green Gables, and the silver locket with her mother's hair. Do you like it here? William asked. Emma nodded enthusiastically. It feels like a real home. William sat beside her on the window seat. Emma, there's something important I need to ask you. What is it? I'd like to legally adopt you. You're already my daughter by birth, but adoption would make it official in the eyes of the law. Emma considered this seriously. Would my name change if you wanted to? You could be Emma Tucker, Emma Blackwood, or Emma Tucker Blackwood. What was my mother's last name again? James? Catherine James. Emma was quiet. For a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. I'd like to be Emma James Blackwood to keep part of her with me. William felt a lump form in his throat. I think that's perfect. Later that evening, as they ate dinner in their new kitchen, William's phone rang repeatedly. After the fifth call, he excused himself to answer. The board is in an uproar, his CFO reported. Victoria sent them all files, claiming you're emotionally unstable, making rash decisions, hiding a secret family. They're calling for an emergency meeting. William pinched the bridge of his nose. Schedule it for tomorrow morning. When he returned to the table, Emma was watching him with Catherine's startling perceptiveness. Is it work? Trouble? Nothing for you to worry about, William assured her. But after Emma went to bed, William confided in Martha, Victoria's trying to undermine me at the company. She knows enough about our operations to cause serious damage. That woman won't stop. Will she? Martha frowned. No. Victoria doesn't give up easily. William stared into his coffee. She told the board I'm neglecting the company because of Emma. Are you? No. But my priorities have shifted. William looked up at Martha, his eyes clearer than she'd ever seen them. For the first time in my life, I don't care about being the richest or most powerful man in the room. I just want to be a good father. The next morning, William dressed for battle in his sharpest suit. As he prepared to leave for the board meeting, Emma appeared in her pajamas. You'll come back, right? She asked, a shadow of old insecurities in her eyes. William knelt to her level. Always. No meeting, no company. Nothing will ever keep me from coming back to you. I promise. At Blackwood Enterprises, William walked into a boardroom filled with tension. 10 board members sat around the polished table, their expressions ranging from concern to outright hostility. William, the chairman, began, serious allegations have been made about your recent behavior and judgment. By Victoria Harlow, I presume. William replied calmly. Among others, the chairman said. Is it true you've abandoned your residence to move to Cambridge for a child you've known less than a month? It's true I've moved to provide a stable home for my daughter. Murmurs rippled around the table. Your daughter? One board member repeated. Since when? Do you have a daughter? William took a deep breath. Since 9 years ago when Catherine James gave birth to Emma. I only discovered Emma's existence recently through a chance encounter. And you're certain this child is yours? Another board member asked skeptically. DNA confirmed. Birth certificate amended. William replied flatly. Any other questions about my personal life before we move on to actual company business? The boardroom door burst open and Victoria walked in, immaculately dressed as always. I believe I can answer some questions, she said smoothly. You're not welcome here, Victoria, William stated, his voice like ice. The board invited me, she replied, taking a seat. They deserve to know the truth about your fitness to lead this company. For the next hour, Victoria outlined her concerns. William's erratic behavior, his emotional decisions, his divided focus. The board listened, some members nodding in agreement. Finally, William stood. For 15 years, I've devoted every waking moment to this company. I've sacrificed personal relationships, holidays, even my own health for Blackwood Enterprises. He looked around the table at the faces of the men he'd made rich. In return, I've built you one of the most successful corporations in America. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Now, for the first time, I'm building something else, a relationship with my daughter. If that makes me unfit to lead in your eyes, so be it. I'll sell my shares and walk away. Today, Victoria smiled, triumphantly. But William continued, before you vote, you should know that Victoria Harlow interfered with my personal communications, falsified company records, and committed multiple felonies to keep my daughter hidden from me. The police are on their way now to arrest her for these crimes. Victoria's smile froze. You're bluffing. The boardroom. Doors opened again and 2 police officers entered. Victoria, Harlow? One asked. We have a warrant for your arrest. As Victoria was led away in handcuffs, the chairman cleared his throat. William, perhaps we've been hasty in our judgment. William checked his watch. If there's nothing else, I promised my daughter I'd be home for dinner. That night, as they ate ice cream on the porch swing, Emma asked, Is everything okay with your company now? William smiled. Everything's fine. But even if it wasn't, you're more important. Emma leaned against his shoulder. I've been thinking about what you said about adopting me, and I'd like that, she said, simply. I'd like to be your daughter, for real. As the summer twilight deepened around them, William felt a peace he'd never known before. The empire he'd spent his life building suddenly seemed insignificant compared to this one. Simple moment. This porch. This child. This family. Inside the house, Martha watched them through the window, smiling through tears. In her hands was a photo she'd found while unpacking Catherine James at an art exhibition. Her red hair gleaming, her blue eyes, Emma's eyes, full of life and dreams. You'd be proud, she whispered to the photograph. They found each other. But across town, in a lawyer's office, Victoria Harlow, now free on bail, was making plans of her own. I want custody of Emma Tucker, she told the attorney, her eyes cold as stone. And I have documents proving William Blackwood is an unfit father. Autumn painted Cambridge in brilliant hues of red and gold. Emma James Blackwood, the name, changed now official, stood at the bus stop for her first day at Oak Ridge Elementary. Her new backpack felt strained against her shoulders, the weight of fresh notebooks and unbroken pencils, a luxury she'd never known. Remember, the driver will bring you directly home, William said, straightening her jacket for the 3rd time. Martha will be waiting. I know, Dad, Emma replied, testing the word that still felt new and wonderful on her tongue. William's heart skipped a beat every time she called him that. For the past month, they'd been building their relationship day by day. They read together at night, had breakfast each morning, learning how to be a father and a daughter. After 8 lost years, you'll do great, he assured her, though his own stomach twisted with anxiety. As the yellow bus approached, Emma hugged him quickly. Don't worry so much, she whispered, sounding far older than 8. William watched until the bus disappeared around the corner, then headed to his temporary office in the Cambridge house. He had restructured his work schedule, delegating more to his executive team and working remotely 3 days a week. The board had begrudgingly accepted these changes after the Victoria debacle. Speaking of Victoria, her custody petition had been filed the previous week. William's lawyers assured him it was groundless. Victoria had no relation to Emma, and no standing to claim guardianship. But the mere existence of the case caused William constant gnawing anxiety. His phone rang with his lawyer's number. Lawrence, please tell me. The judge threw out Victoria's petition. Not exactly, Lawrence replied grimly. She's amended her filing with a new claim. She's saying she's Catherine's half-sister. William nearly dropped the phone. That's impossible. She's provided documentation. Birth certificates showing the same father, photographs of them, together as children. If it's fabricated, it's extremely well done. It has to be fabricated. Catherine never mentioned a sister. Half-sister, Lawrence corrected. And according to Victoria's filing, they were estranged for years before Catherine's death. She claims she only recently discovered Emma's existence through the news coverage of your reunion. William's mind raced. Even if this were true, it doesn't give her priority over me. I'm Emma's biological father. Normally, no. But Victoria's filing includes allegations that you're an unfit parent due to your work schedule and lack of childcare experience. She's requesting a home study and a psychological evaluation. After hanging up, William sat motionless, staring at the family photograph he'd placed on his desk. It showed Emma and Martha in the garden with William kneeling beside them. It had been taken just 2 weeks. Now, the first real family photo of his life. Across town, Victoria Harlow sat in her attorney's office reviewing their strategy. The sister angle was brilliant, her lawyer commented. The documentation looks flawless. It should, Victoria replied coolly. It cost enough. What's your endgame here? Even if you create doubt about Blackwood's parenting abilities, the courts generally favor biological parents. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. William took everything from me. My career, my reputation, my future. I'm simply returning the favor by taking his daughter, by making him understand true loss. Victoria examined her. Perfect manicure. Besides, the girl would be better off with me. William Blackwood doesn't know the first thing about raising a child. At Oak Ridge Elementary, Emma sat alone at lunch, acutely aware of the differences between herself and her classmates. Their casual mentions of vacations, second homes, and extracurricular activities highlighted the vast gap between her past and present. You're the girl from the news, right? A red-haired girl slid onto the bench across from her. I'm Lily Montgomery. Emma nodded, cautiously. Is it true you were homeless before your dad found you? I wasn't homeless, Emma corrected. I lived with Martha in an apartment. My mom says your dad is one of the richest men in Boston, Lily continued, undeterred. She says it's like a fairy tale. Emma looked down at her lunch, a sandwich Martha had carefully prepared that morning. It's not a fairy tale. It's just my life. That afternoon, when Emma stepped off the bus, she found not Martha waiting, but a social worker and a woman she recognized from the hospital, Victoria. Hello, Emma. Victoria smiled warmly. I'm your Aunt Victoria. Your mother was my sister. Emma took a step back, her heart starting to pound. My father didn't say anything about you picking me up. The social worker intervened. Emma, I'm Ms. Bennett from Family Services. There's been a petition filed regarding your custody, and the court has ordered a home visit today. Want to call my dad, Emma said, firmly, her voice not wavering. Of course, Victoria replied smoothly. Once we're inside. As they walked toward the house, Emma noticed Martha watching anxiously from the window. The moment they entered, Martha embraced her. Are you all right, sweetheart? Emma nodded, then whispered, Call Dad. While the social worker began inspecting the house, Victoria approached Emma. No, this is confusing, but I want you to know I've been looking for you for years. Catherine was my little sister. We had different mothers, but the same father. Emma studied the woman skeptically. If you're my mother's sister, why didn't you find me before? Victoria's expression turned sad. A performance of grief. I tried. The system lost track of you after Catherine died. When I saw the news about William finding you, I couldn't believe it. Martha returned from calling William, her face tight with worry. He's on his way, the social worker continued. Her inspection, making notes about the house, asking Martha questions about Emma's routine. Victoria followed, occasionally, making comments about the hasty arrangements and temporary situation. When William arrived 30 minutes later, his face was thunderous. "What is the meaning of this unannounced visit?" Miss Bennet remained professional. "The court ordered an emergency home study following serious allegations about Emma's living conditions." "What allegations?" William demanded. "That the child is primarily cared for by an elderly woman with health issues while you work excessive hours," Victoria interjected. "That this arrangement was made hastily without proper vetting." William turned to the social worker. "Martha Tucker is a licensed foster parent with an exemplary record. This house has been fully inspected and approved by Family Services just 3 weeks ago, and my work schedule has been restructured specifically to accommodate my daughter's needs." Ms. Bennet nodded. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm simply following court orders. I'll need to speak with Emma alone as part of my assessment." As the adults moved to the kitchen, Emma sat with Ms. Bennet in the living room. "Emma, are you happy living here?" the social worker asked gently. Emma thought of the past month, the bedtime stories, the trips to the museum, the simple joy of having her own room that no one could take away. Most of all, she thought of William's promise. "I'll always come back." "Yes," she answered firmly. "This is my home. William is my dad. Martha is my—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Martha is my heart. They're my family." In the kitchen, Victoria was speaking quietly to William. "You don't have to make this difficult. I'm not trying to take her away completely. I'm simply proposing a more suitable arrangement. Emma living with me during a week with you having weekended visitation." William's voice was, You kept my daughter from me for 8 years. You will not have her for another minute." Victoria's mask slipped, revealing the coldness beneath. "This is far from over, William. I've only just begun." The custody hearing was scheduled for December 10th, giving William's legal team just 6 weeks to prepare. Lawrence Davis assembled a battalion of experts, child, psychologists, education, specialists, and character witnesses to testify on William's behalf. Victoria is claiming Catherine confided in her about your relationship, Lawrence explained during a strategy session. She's painting you as a callous businessman who abandoned Catherine when the relationship became inconvenient. William winced at the kernel of truth in this characterization of his past self. "That was 9 years ago. I'm not that person anymore." "The judge will want to see evidence of that change," Lawrence cautioned. "Your recent actions help, but Victoria's team will emphasize your past behavior and question whether this transformation is genuine or temporary." Outside, the first snow of winter-dusted Cambridge and white. Emma and Martha were building a snowman in the front yard, their laughter carrying through the closed windows. "She's the evidence," William said softly, watching his daughter place a carrot nose on the snowman. "Every decision I make now is with Emma in mind." Meanwhile, Emma was adapting to her new school with mixed results. Her academic background was spotty after years of changing schools, leaving her behind in several subjects. William hired tutors, but Emma's frustration grew as she struggled to catch up. "I'm stupid," she declared one evening after a particularly difficult math session. "You are absolutely not stupid," William countered, sitting beside her at the kitchen table. "You've had an inconsistent education because of circumstances beyond your control." Emma sighed dramatically. "Lily Montgomery says I shouldn't even be in 3rd grade. If I can't multiply right," William made a mental note to discuss this. Lily's situation with Emma's teacher. "Everyone learns at their own pace. When I was your age, I couldn't read properly." Emma looked up in surprise. "Really?" William nodded. "I had dyslexia. Words jumbled together on the edge. My father called me lazy, but my mother found me a special tutor. Did it help? Eventually. But it was hard work, and there were many days I wanted to give up." William squeezed her hand. "The point is, learning isn't always easy, and that has nothing to do with how smart you are. That night, after Emma was asleep, William found Martha in the kitchen, preparing lunches for the next day. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I can hire someone." Martha shook her head. "I like taking care of her. It gives me purpose." William sat at the counter. "Martha, I need to ask you something. Did Catherine ever mention having a sister or half-sister?" Martha considered. "This, not directly, but once, when Emma was about 3 months old, a woman came to the hospital claiming to be family. Catherine was already gone by then, of course." William straightened. "What woman? Did you see her?" "No, but the nurse mentioned it when I came to visit Emma in the NICU. She said the woman was quite insistent, but couldn't provide proper identification. Security escorted her out." "Did you tell the police about this?" "I reported everything I knew when they interviewed me last month. It didn't seem important at the time." Martha paused, her eyes narrowing. "You don't think Victoria was that woman, do you?" Before William could answer, his phone rang. It was Lawrence again. "William, we have a problem. Victoria's filed an emergency motion claiming Martha is physically unable to provide adequate childcare due to her arthritis. The judge has ordered another home study, this time focusing specifically on Martha's role." William's grip tightened on the phone. "She's trying to eliminate our support system piece by piece. That's not all." Lawrence continued, his voice grim. "Victoria submitted medical records suggesting Catherine had mental health issues that could be hereditary. She's requesting a psychological evaluation for Emma." After hanging up, William relayed the news to Martha, whose face crumpled in distress. "She's right about one thing. My arthritis is getting worse. Some mornings I can barely hold a cup. Martha, you're not just here as childcare. You're here because Emma loves you, and because you've been more of a parent to her than anyone." Martha wiped away a tear. "What are we going to do?" "Fight," William said, "simply, with everything we have." The next day, Emma came home from school unusually quiet. When William asked what was wrong, she handed him a crumpled note. It was from Lily Montgomery. "Everyone knows your dad just feels sorry for you. My mom says he'll get tired of playing daddy soon." William's heart sank. "Emma, this isn't true, isn't it?" Emma's voice was small and fragile. "You didn't want me before. What if you change your mind?" William knelt to her level. "Emma, James Blackwood, listen to me carefully. Finding you was the best thing that ever happened to you. Nothing, not work, not money, not anything matters more than you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Promise?" "I promise," William said firmly, "and I keep my promises." That weekend, while raking leaves in the backyard, William received an unexpected visitor, Victoria's attorney. "Mr. Blackwood, my client has authorized me to present a settlement offer." He handed William an envelope. "She's willing to drop the custody petition in exchange for $20 million and a controlling interest in Blackwood Enterprises European division." William stared at the document in disbelief. "This was never about Emma at all, was it?" The attorney shrugged. "My client feels she's entitled to compensation for her years of service." William tore the document in half. "Tell Victoria I'll see her in court." Later, reviewing case files with Lawrence, William discovered something odd in the documentation Victoria had provided. A birth certificate for a Victoria James, allegedly Catherine's half-sister, dated 1978. "This can't be right," William said. "Victoria Harlow was born in 1975. I've seen her personnel file." Lawrence frowned. "So either this birth certificate is forged, or Victoria James and Victoria Harlow are two different people." William finished, a cold dread creeping up his spine. "Get our investigators on this immediately." As December approached, Emma became increasingly anxious about the upcoming hearing. One night, William found her sitting on her window seat, clutching her mother's locket. "What if the judge says I have to go with her?" Emma whispered. William sat beside her. "That's not going to happen." "But what if it does? She says she's my aunt." William chose his words carefully. Emma, I believe Victoria is lying about being related to your mother. But even if she weren't, biology isn't what makes a family. Love does. Emma leaned against him. I'm scared. I know, William said, holding her close. But remember what we read in your book last night? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Emma managed a small smile. Nelson Mandela said, that. Smart man, William replied, and you're a smart girl. As Emma drifted to sleep that night, William made a decision. He would no longer simply react to Victoria's attacks. It was time to take the offensive. Judge Elena Simmons had presided over family court for 27 years. She'd seen it all, bitter divorces, heart-wrenching adoptions, and custody battles that left everyone wounded. The case of Emma James Blackwood promised to be equally complex. The courtroom was closed to the public, but Victoria had somehow ensured the media knew every detail of the proceedings. Headlines screamed across Boston. Billionaire's secret daughter. Custody battle begins and long-lost aunt fights for orphan child. William sat at the plaintiff's table with Lawrence, watching as Victoria entered with her legal team. She wore a conservative navy suit, her hair styled simply, the very picture of respectable concern. All rise, the bailiff called as Judge Simmons entered. The judge wasted no time on preliminaries. I've reviewed the extensive filings in this case. Before we begin, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. My only concern is the welfare of the child. I'm not interested in corporate vendettas or personal grievances. Is that understood? Both legal teams nodded. Victoria's attorney opened with a compelling narrative. A devoted aunt searching for her sister's child, only to find her in the temporary care of a workaholic father who'd abandoned the mother years ago. Ms. Harlow has established a trust fund for Emma's education, prepared a room in her home and research schools that specialize in helping children transition from unstable backgrounds. The attorney concluded she offers the stability and maternal guidance this child desperately needs. When it was Lawrence's turn, he approached the bench with a folder. Your Honor, before proceeding, I'd like to submit new evidence that directly contradicts Ms. Harlow's claim of a biological relationship to Emma. Victoria's attorney objected immediately. This is procedurally improper. Any evidence should have been disclosed during discovery. The evidence was obtained yesterday, Lawrence countered, and it's directly relevant to Ms. Harlow's standing. In this case, Judge Simmons reviewed the documents, her expression growing increasingly severe. Ms. Harlow, these records indicate that the birth certificate you provided for Victoria James belongs to a woman who died in 1992. Can you explain this discrepancy? Victoria's composure slipped momentarily. There must be some mistake. Furthermore, Lawrence continued, we have statements from Catherine, James's college roommate and former employer, indicating she never mentioned having any siblings, half or otherwise. The judge turned to Victoria's attorney. Counselor, if your client has misrepresented her relationship to this child, she has no standing whatsoever in the proceeding. Victoria leaned forward. Your Honor, if I may speak directly. The judge nodded cautiously. It's true that Catherine and I weren't biological siblings, but we were as close as sisters. I promised her that if anything ever happened to her, I would look after her child. Victoria's voice broke convincingly. I've spent years searching for Emma. Do you have any documentation of this promise? Letters, emails, witnesses? Victoria hesitated. No, Your Honor. It was a private conversation. William's attorney pounced. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Harlow actively prevented Catherine James from contacting Mr. Blackwood about her pregnancy, falsified records to keep Emma's existence hidden from her father, and has engaged in a systematic campaign of harassment since Mr. Blackwood discovered his daughter. The afternoon continued with expert testimony about Emma's well-being, Martha's capabilities despite her arthritis, and William's dramatic lifestyle changes to accommodate fatherhood. Finally, Judge Simmons called for Emma herself to be brought in for a private conversation in her chambers. William watched anxiously as his daughter followed the judge, her small shoulders squared with determination. Inside the judge's chambers, Emma sat in an oversized leather chair, her feet barely touching the floor. "Emma," Judge Simmons began gently, "I'd like to ask you some questions about your living situation. There are no right or wrong answers, okay?" Emma nodded, solemnly. "Are you happy living with Mr. Blackwood and Mrs. Tucker?" "Yes," Emma replied, without hesitation. "My dad reads to me every night, even when he's tired. And Martha makes me feel safe." "What about Ms. Harlow? She seems to care about you very much." Emma frowned. "She pretends to be nice."